All right. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to show you how to install Bitwarden, an open source password manager on your own server so that you can use it on your desktop, on your browser, and even on your mobile phone. Bitwarden is super exciting because they've been working for the past 7+ years on this open source version of a password manager. They open sourced both their clients, so the browser extensions, the mobile applications, the desktop clients, and the web version, as well as the server, the notification URLs, the API URLs. So technically, you could install everything from scratch and have your own password manager running on your own system. Now that's super exciting. The second reason why I want to talk about Bitwarden is because they've raised a whopping $100 million round just announced this week. And this is always exciting when open source projects really grow beyond their own imagination and beyond their own project and become a proper company that is that massive. So this investment shows me that Bitwarden, to the investors on the private markets, really has an impact to the entire enterprise solution. And that's exciting. So I want to show you how to install Bitwarden on your own server. And let's dive in. So first of all, when you come to the Bitwarden GitHub repository, you will see that there are around 16 repositories as of today. A bunch of these repositories are actually archived. And so the only repositories that we really care about are the clients, the server, and the self-host repository. The self-host repository itself only hosts the bash scripts that are running to pull in various Docker files and execute kind of like some questions that like interact with the user during the install process. However, the server is really the core of the infrastructure of Bitwarden. Here is the API, the database, everything lies here, the encryption, of course. We can see from the insights here that dating back to the earliest contribution, at least according to GitHub, was the end of 2015. So, almost 7 years in the making. And, there's amazing folks behind it. Of course, the CTO, Kyle, but also, other folks like Oscar Hinton and Chad Scharf and Matt Gibson. And, I could go on and name all the 99 contributors that are, either working at Bitwarden. There's already 100 contributors now. But seeing also that most of the, core repositories garnered around 15,000 stars combined. Maybe if you count the mobile version, the repository as a separate, then it's, almost 20,000 stars. So this really means that, there's an interest in this open source password management solution. And we're going to dive in and run through the install process. So on their website, they have a very, clear installation guide for both Linux, Windows, installing it from source, and an offline version. And this intrigued me, of course, because usually you don't really see offline versions in the install process, but we're talking about password management solutions. So this is about, being super secure, and, people want to use maybe air-gapped laptops to run this. So they've offered, an install process for you to go through if this is one of the requirements that you have. For us, we're going to run on a Linux machine. So we're going to run through this install process right here. I've already set up a server on DigitalOcean that has around, I think, like 2 gigahertz, maybe a bit more. It's dual core for sure. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, and it's got plenty more than this 25 gigs of storage. This is kind of like the recommended, so I would always go with the recommended than the minimum version. However, if you know you're not going to use it much, you can also go with this. Bitwarden does have kind of a collaboration with DigitalOcean where you get some like $100 of free credit if you sign up through the link that they have here. However, I didn't want to go through this like one-click install because I wanted to change some things and wanted to understand how it all really works. So I'm gonna run through this install process right here and take you with me on this journey. Perfect. So I've already installed I already have a domain ready. It's called bitwarden.mfts.io. Currently, there's nothing running on there. If we go, it's like doesn't exist. All right. However, it is connected via a DNS record to this IP right here. And this is the first step that you should do to set this up on your own domain. Next, I've installed Docker and Docker Compose on this machine. If we run Docker version, we see that we're running the community edition and running version 20.10.17, which is way above what's recommended. So that's good. And same with Docker Compose. That's running 2.3.3 at the moment, but it might differ depending on when you install it. The next step is really just to safeguard that we don't install the Bitwarden as a root user, but as a local user that only has access to Docker, not the sudo and root privileges. So we're gonna create a user right here. Give it a password. I mistyped. But this also happens in live streams. Not live streams, but in live demos. We already have the Docker user group, so we will add this to our newly created Bitwarden user. Done. Now we're going to create a directory where we want to install the install scripts and everything Bitwarden related. We want to change the access privileges for this repository. Sorry, for this directory. And finally, we want to transfer the ownership to our Bitwarden user. Great. That step is done. Next, we're going to install Bitwarden. And as I mentioned just above, we don't want to do this as a root user. So if you type who am I without space in between, you will see that we're currently a root user. So in order to switch to our newly created Bitwarden user, we want to type su space dash space Bitwarden. And in my prompt, it looks different now, but if it didn't change for you, you can type who am I and it will say Bitwarden. So this way you know you are in this new user. The next, we want to head over to our directory that we had just created and install everything in there. Now I can go and pull the script from Bitwarden and I can run the install process. Now, I run into this problem with Docker Compose. You may or may not run into this problem. That's because Docker has created a new strategy with their Compose into and basically used Docker Compose as a plugin now. This is not yet installed on this user, or not available on this user. So we basically need to kind of like reinstall this here. And now I'm just going to head back to the repo and run Bitwarden install. So now that's working. The first question that's going to ask me, and we can see the questions right here, is called, what's your fully qualified domain name? And mine's bitwarden.mfts.io, which is connected via DNS record to this IP address of the server. We definitely want SSL encryption. Again, we're dealing with passwords that are transmitted. Even though they're encrypted, they're still transmitted over the internet. So we do want SSL encryption right here for transit transcription, for in-transit encryption. We're going to use Let's Encrypt, which they've kindly built in. And immediately it's going to pull certbot, which is one of the Let's Encrypt clients that kind of like runs in the background to create an authentication and a certificate for your fully qualified domain name, and also is responsible for renewing your certificates every, I think, 2 months. So we'll see right here that it expires in 3 months from today exactly. So every 2 months, typically it updates, but we'll get into this in a bit. There's even kind of like the next steps. The certificate will be renewed before it expires. Certbot can automatically renew it in the background, but you may need to take additional steps to enable that. So that's what we're going to do after. Finally, it's going to ask me what's the name for the database. I'm just going to call it Vault, like they told us. And then this question is actually missing from here, but not a big deal. Finally, it's going to ask me for my installation ID, and this is something that I've not seen around so often for open source projects, but I do like the idea. It's basically to keep track of self-hosted installations. If there are critical updates, we might miss those if we don't keep track. So this is a way for them to understand which versions are running on various self-hosted instances and can alert us if there's a critical update. So this will just generate quickly a 2048-bit key, or not so quickly. And then we are also already fully set with the install process. All right, it's already telling us what to do next. And if we do have any changes about the initial configuration that we just have taken, we can do this in bw data /config YAML. This is where all our configuration that we just set up, including Let's Encrypt and so on, configured. Then we should run Bitwarden rebuild if we want to kind of like update this. Otherwise, we can run Bitwarden start. In the installation process, there is, however, an kind of like an update that we should set our email SMTP host. I don't have one at the moment. I should probably do a video about this, how to do it open source, but we can set our admin settings. So if we go to bw data, we can see in the env file, in particular in the global override env, we're just going to go env global sudo. Not sure why it doesn't autocomplete for me. Need to type password. Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to type sudo. I meant to type nano. All right, I'm just going to put my email right here as instructed and save this bad boy. And then I want to hit restart. So this will not execute because we are currently in the BW. So Bitwarden sh file is right here. That's why we need to reference it also here. So this will pull the various Docker files again, and you can see there's SSO, there's the MS SQL, which stands for the Microsoft SQL database that they're using, the admin, the API, the Nginx, the identity, the events, all sorts of things is being currently extracted and downloaded. However, we don't need to rebuild anything. We can just keep starting the process. And then that's already it for the installation process. So very painless. And here is just an overview for the other Bitwarden scripts that we can use. Yeah, it's just going to take a moment to run all our containers. And it says Bitwarden is up and running. So because we said restart, and that means it's also starting now. So if we refresh, we can see that we are currently in front of login gate. We obviously don't have a user yet, so we're going to create a user. And it's funny that my 1Password extension kind of suggests what to use. Obviously, you want to choose a password that's much more secure than what I've just created. And it alerts me that I have chosen a weak master password. But that's fine for the demo purposes. Just want to show that this is how it looks once we're in. Currently on version 2020.8.1. We can add items here, such as, let's call it Twitter, my Twitter handle, and a password. Oh, and then https twitter.com and save. Perfect. So we've got our first vault item. Now, the cool thing is really that we want to autocomplete this whenever we're on Twitter's website. So we can install the Bitwarden browser extension for Chrome in this case, or we can go back to Bitwarden's GitHub profile, go to clients, and install the browser extension from scratch. So this is the browser extension that works for all these browsers. There is a documentation section of how we can contribute to this. But in the end, this is a browser extension. We can, the code is available right here. It's the same license as all the other. It's typically GPL or AGPL3. But yeah. So Bitwarden browser extension is installed. If I click on Bitwarden, I go up here to our settings and I punch in my server URL. And this will tell it when I log in to authenticate against my server URL. So when I go to enter my master password and click login, we can see we've got our Twitter account right here. And we can hit on launch and it will even open Twitter for us. We can click on login, and now I've got two browser extension battle themselves for who gets to fill out. But we just clicked on Bitwarden and then clicked right here in the middle of this login, and it auto completed or auto filled this empty field right here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, what I wanted to show you guys and girls. So I need to be more mindful of being more inclusive and using words that are a bit more inclusive. So I apologize for everyone listening. I will record something also and show you how it works on your mobile app. There is a Bitwarden mobile app in the App Store and the Play Store at the moment. So it works exactly the same. You download the application and you can easily click on settings to configure your server URL, and that way you will log into your server URL, and you can do autocomplete and autofill on your mobile. That's pretty cool. So big shout out to all the people at Bitwarden who are working so hard to make this open source password management solution a joy to use. And it's really progressing a lot. So I'm glad that they're working so hard on this, and hope that the install process helped you a bit and you learned something in this video. So thanks so much, and catch you in the next video.